Look at this group we've got here. Who knew that Arkansas was the epicenter of cybersecurity? I did.
Yeah.
I did. I want you to
go. I did because you told me.
Yeah, go forth and preach the what a big deal this was. U.S. Attorney Jonathan Ross. Don't ever forget to recognize a federal prosecutor. Okay? Lesson number 1. God bless you, my friend. Thanks for being here. So, a lot of people in this room, I'm not going to say I'm one, or was one, but a lot of people in this room have no idea what CISA is, what it stands for, when it was created. Tell us a little bit about CISA at a 50,000, for the Air Force guys, I'm going to speak their language. At a 50,000 foot level, they're smiling. Tell us what CISA is, and then we'll dig from there. So just tell us, where'd y'all come from and what the heck do you do? And how did you get this job?
Well, first of all, Tim, it's great to be here. Great to be with you. Great to be with all of you. I'm really, really pleased we were able to make it down here. You know, Arkansas, if it's not already known for cybersecurity, it will be after this. I understand it's known for football as well.
Go Hogs.
Yeah.
And any other Arkansas team that won this weekend.
It's pretty good. We care about the Army-Navy game as well, as you know. But
absolutely.
So I'm really, really pleased to be here. And before I start, I do want to shout out, I have a lot of teammates here. Several of them based in Arkansas on the ground, and I'm really, really proud. We've got Brian Gray, who's and if y'all could stand up so people know, CISA teammates. We've got our Deputy Regional Director, Brian Gray. We've got Chad Johnson, who's our Cybersecurity State Coordinator right here in Little Rock. We've got Gail Combs, who's a Cybersecurity Advisor. Where are you, Gail? Based in Bentonville. I think we've got Mark Kirby here. Another one of our Cybersecurity Advisors. We got Glenn Moore. We've got, let's see, my teammates here in the front row. And so I just want you all to know, like, we are here in force in the great state of Arkansas and in this region. And thanks very much, you guys. So you can find them. We've also got Keith Ingram, actually, who's our election security advisor, who works very, very closely with the Secretary of State's team. But really, really proud of the team here. So a little bit about CISA, and then I do want to talk about our strategy to build out folks all over the region, because I think that's really the key to our success, because we know, and you know, because you were there, you know, the real stuff doesn't happen in Washington, D.C. The real stuff happens out in America, and that's where people are being affected by this very complex threat environment. So the Congress in 2018 recognized that and stood up CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Now, as the newest agency in the federal government, we play 2 key roles. We serve as America's Cyber Defense Agency and as the National Coordinator for Critical Infrastructure Security and Resilience. So our mission is to lead the national effort to understand, manage, and reduce risk to the cyber and physical infrastructure that Americans rely on every hour of every day, for water, for power, for healthcare, for education, for finance, for communications, for transportation. And we know that the vast majority of that critical infrastructure is owned and operated by the private sector or at the state and local level. And we're not a regulator. We're not an intel collection agency. We're not a law enforcement agency. We are purely a voluntary agency that our success is about our ability to work by, with, and through partners. And so that's why it's so important to have us on the ground in every state with the cybersecurity expertise, the physical security expertise, so that we can work with all of our partners in a way that we can help them reduce risk.
So you have people in every state?
You bet. You bet.
And can you talk a little bit about how that's organized? I assume like so many other federal agencies, you've got sort of regional
Yep.
centers and then states under that. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have 10 regions. And this is one of the things. So when I came into this job over 3 years ago, because we had grown so quickly and had received more funding from Congress, we had a lot of billets that need to be filled. And so we had a real concerted push for hiring. And in fact, since the summer of July 2021, we've hired over 2,200 people. You think about that from a cybersecurity and technology perspective. I'm really, really proud of my team to be able to bring on incredible expertise. But where we have grown very significantly is in the field, because again, we realize that's where we can make a difference working with small businesses, working with critical infrastructure owners and operators, working with state and local officials to help them understand the threat and then to take material steps to be able to reduce that risk. So all across the country, we have regional teams, but within every state, we have cybersecurity advisors, cybersecurity state coordinators who are in the Capitol, like Chad Johnson, who's right here in Little Rock. We have protective security advisors who are physical security experts. We have folks who are experts in emergency communications. We have folks who are experts in chemical security. So all sorts of expertise in terms of how we protect and defend critical infrastructure. And every day these folks are working with our partners on the ground to bring not just information that we can share, but also we have no-cost services. So already paid for by taxpayer dollars, we have cybersecurity services, physical security services, and an ability to do training and exercises so that we can help people understand all of the things they need to do to reduce risk, which frankly, Tim, is why I'm so excited to be here, because we're a new agency. A lot of people don't know about us, but we bring incredible capability to people on the ground to deal with this increasingly complex environment that's impacting America's ability to provide critical services to people.
That's the resource component. And if this was in the Army, I would say that's a foot stomp, right? So you're going to hear a lot about resources over the next couple of days. We have a panel or more than one that'll focus on resources. Resources to you means either free help or partially free help. In this case, she's got boots on the ground who will help you in the private sector, who will help you at your government agency. They're ready to do that, and there's just you're a phone call away. And it seems to me, based on what you said, so when you think of Arkansas, you think of cyber, but you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably also thinking of Nuclear One. You're thinking of our public utilities. You're thinking of all these, you're thinking maybe of our water supply, which is right out west. Can you talk a little bit, is that how you view the state?
Yeah,
with cyber being a critical part of that?
Absolutely, Tim. So we talk about critical infrastructure, and people sometimes don't understand what that term means. Critical infrastructure is just the services that Americans rely on every hour of every day. It's laid out as 16 separate critical infrastructure sectors, and I mentioned earlier, it's things like hospitals, like water, like education, like transportation, like communications, like agriculture. And we work as the national coordinator, meaning that we are working with federal partners, we're working with state and local partners, we're working with industry, we're working with nonprofits like the Forge Institute, as you mentioned, we're working with academia. At the center of that, we are working to help our partners reduce that risk, whether it's water utilities or rural hospitals or anything that, frankly, The key is for that critical infrastructure, almost all of it these days is underpinned by a digital backbone.
Right, Internet of Things.
And exactly, and so because of that digital connectivity and that interdependence, businesses these days are very, very vulnerable. You mentioned in your introductory remarks about the story on China. So that is one of the major threats that we deal with and that we've been dealing with for decades, but now that's a threat that's become increasingly aggressive. You mentioned impacts on our communication systems, but we've been working to try and uncover a separate set of Chinese cyber actors known as Volt Typhoon, who are looking to embed themselves in our critical infrastructure, not to steal our data or intellectual property, but actually to create disruption and destruction in the event of a major crisis in the Taiwan Straits. And so this is a world where a conflict halfway across the globe could have real impacts on the lives of Americans. You could see things like pipelines exploding, rail lines getting derailed, comms being severed, water being impacted very negatively. And so we've been working to identify these actors, to eradicate them, and we've actually found them. This is not a hypothetical intel assessment. This is a real and urgent threat. We found them in water, in communications networks, in transportation, in power. And so we're working very closely with critical infrastructure owners and operators to help them understand this threat and to drive down risk. But my message to everybody here is, this is a very real and urgent threat to all of us as Americans, given how connected we are, how interdependent we are, and frankly, how vulnerable we are. So we all need to come together and take those very important steps to be able to reduce risk. And to your point, we provide these resources. You can go to CISA.gov or call 1-844-SAY-CISA or talk to any of my teammates that are here, some on the ground right here in Little Rock, to understand the services that we provide. Things like cyber essentials, our cybersecurity performance goals, our cyber hygiene scanning, which can tell you if you have internet-facing open vulnerabilities that you need to get after right away. So we are here to help.
So at some point, we want to make sure that up on the screens, not now, but we will post your website, your phone number, all of these things, so that everybody here can avail themselves of this. And I want to contextualize a little bit on this threat, because what you're saying is, and I know those of us who are paid to watch the threat have known for a long time that the threat wasn't something just going across your favorite news, 24-hour news channel around election time that gets everybody fired up. This stuff has been at the center of the conversation in the military and elsewhere for more than a decade, 2 decades. And it's not in the future, it's here and has been here. You may not have known that. You may have thought it was just hyperbole by politicians, but I can tell you, when I wear my green suit and not this suit, I've known about this for a long, long time. And so here's what I would say, and want to get your comment on this. So a lot of us hear about what the next war will look like. We call it LSCO. LSCO. Large scale combat operations, okay? That's to be distinguished from counterinsurgency in a third world country, which is the last war, right? Those threats will still exist, but LSCO is what everybody's focused on. If you go to Google, you've probably never done this before, and you key in LSCO, you'll see there are all sorts of people who have been talking about this for a long, long time. Large-scale combat operations. But conditioning and preparing the battlefield, our state, our country, their country, is already happening in advance of LISCO. And that's what a lot of this cyber stuff is. Figuring out where the opponent's vulnerabilities are in the heartland. Testing them, as you said, not just trying to steal stuff, but in many cases, monitoring and trying to stay quiet and stealthy over time to just watch what we're doing. This stuff is here. And the crazy thing about the internet is all connected. So you can go in someone's air-conditioned system, which in a big building is probably connected to the internet, or in your home may be connected to the internet so you can change the thermostat or set the alarm. They can go through that and end up in your bank or whatever, right? And so can you talk about CISA and the individuals here that just have their home stuff, and maybe the small business owner, because obviously Walmart and the federal government and state government are investing millions in cybersecurity. But people like me and you at your home, you may just have software, antivirus software or whatever. What does CISA mean to them, most of the people in this room, and how can you help them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you're a small business or critical infrastructure owner, operator, I'd point to two things that you should take a look at on our website and work with our folks to make available to you. First of all, we have something called Cybersecurity Performance Goals. Those of you who are in the cyber world probably aware of the NIST cybersecurity framework. Now, that is a very, very large document with 100 or hundreds of things on there to help you reduce risk. But frankly, if you're a small or medium enterprise, that is just going to be too much for you. So what we were asked to do was to take an extract of that for the most important things that you can do to reduce risk to your networks and your business. And we distilled it down to 37 things. And we characterized it by cost, complexity, and impact. So you can work through those 37 things and be able to implement the most important things to reduce risk. And it's much more manageable if you're a small business to be able to do those things. So I would point to that. The second thing I would say is check out what we call our Sci-Hi scanning. You can sign up for it, and we will provide at no cost a scan of what you all look like from an internet perspective. So it's the view actually that our threat actors like China, like Russia, like Iran, like North Korea, like cyber criminals who've been devastating businesses across the country with ransomware to the tune of trillions of dollars. So you can actually sign up for those scans, and then we'll give you a report that says you have this open vulnerability that is currently being used by a ransomware actor, and you need to put a patch on it as soon as possible to protect your business. So those are two things that I would look at in the near term. Now, as an individual, we kicked off a campaign last year. It's called Secure Our World. You can go to CISA.gov/Secure Our World. And it lays out in very basic terms what you can do to protect yourself, to protect your family, to protect your community. 4 basic steps that you can take. We call it cyber hygiene. It's like the cyber equivalent to washing your hands and brushing your teeth. So what are those 4 steps? First, complex, unique passwords, and get a password manager.
So not the word password.
Not the word password, no.
If your password is the word password, you have a problem.
Or even password 123.
Yeah, let me, I know you won't forget the others. Let me mention something on this point. We had some friendly hackers come to this state and do some testing. And let me just tell you that major infrastructure in the state that probably impacts almost everybody in this room was vulnerable because the air conditioning system was online, as it is for big buildings, and the password was password. So think about that. You go to an entity that has a lot of very important critical data, and you go to their HVAC system, air conditioning system, knowing that they're not going around changing all 500 thermostats by hand. They're doing it via a web-based platform. And the password was password. Once they got into that system, they were able to go anywhere they wanted in that company's infrastructure or that entity's infrastructure. That's a soft underbelly.
Yeah, and it happened also recently with water facilities that were using a default password set by the vendor that was 11111. So part of what we're also doing, frankly, is encouraging vendors to take steps to mandate that the customers change those default passwords to ensure that they're safe, and that's part of our Secure by Design initiative. But let me go back to my four. So complex, unique passwords, and you can get a password manager. You can download one for free if you just go to an app store. It can generate these passwords for every sensitive account so you don't have the same one, and then it can remember it for you. So you just need to remember your one master password. So that's really important. Secondly, install your software updates. Every time you get that annoying "you must install this update," it's because there is some sort of a security problem or a hole that's been opened up in that device or in that software, so you have to keep it up to date. So install your software updates. Next one, recognize and report phishing. So phishing are these emails or text messages that send you things that are illegitimate. Essentially, they're trying to hook you, they're trying to put malware on your system. You have to think before you click on that and work hard to recognize and report that phishing. If it's from somebody you don't recognize or haven't heard from for a while or something that looks wrong, you should report that and not click on it. And then finally, use multi-factor authentication, or MFA. What is that? A second step. Instead of just using your login and password, use a second step, whether that's an SMS message or a fingerprint or something to validate that goes past just that login and password. So those 4 steps, if you go to Secure Our World, you can see we just put out our latest PSA, which is modeled off of Schoolhouse Rock. I don't know if anyone remembers that. You remember Schoolhouse? That's probably what inspired you to get into politics,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm
How
only
long
a bill.
is that PSA?
It's only a minute, my friend.
Can we work on getting that?
Oh,
Can
yeah,
we
I should
watch
put that up
here?
there. Should put it. It also comes with a music video because if you sing it, it's easy to remember.
Hey, Blake, can y'all work on that while we're chit-chatting?
Maybe I can get you to sing
See
it
if we
with
can watch a video in a minute. That'd be cool.
You need 4 things. Do you want to sing it together? We didn't plan this.
I'm gonna let you do that.
Install your updates, make better passwords, think before you click, and use multiple factors.
I'm not sure.
Come on, people.
I will say those jingles, I can still sing. Well, I could still sing Schoolhouse Rock, so I'm sure that'll be just as catchy.
Totally.
If we get that up, let's dim the lights at the same time, but we'll keep going until I get an acknowledgement that we've got something cool on the screen. I assume that screen is what I'm seeing here. Keep going. I got a
So
question.
those are the 4 things secure our world. You can go to the website. You can see the PSAs. You can download tip sheets, animated videos. So these were, in some ways, focus grouped with my 91-year-old mother and my 85-year-old father. Because look, at the end of the day, our older adults, elders, even older than us, Tim, are becoming victims of scams and frauds. And so this is really a
Hang
K
on,
through grade.
hang on. I know it's good, but let her finish. Go ahead.
What I like to call K through gray. You know, this is all of us.
K through gray.
K through gray.
So I'm the last step.
You're the gray.
I'm gray.
You're the gray, my friend.
Gotcha.
Do we have our schoolhouse?
You want to do that? Can we do that now? Hang on. Let's get the lights dimmed a little bit. While you're doing that, I'm gonna ask something, and then anyway. So we've talked about nation-state actors like China. I want to talk about some of the many other criminals, threats, who are preying on our elderly, who preying on us, right?
Yeah.
And those could be individuals on the other side of the world who call you like they're next door, or who email you like they're next door, and or they could be cartels, they could be organized crime as opposed to disorganized crime. Can you talk about, we know China, who are some of the other bad folks out there that are trying to do this? We've had some high-profile ransomware attacks here in the state. Can you talk about who's doing that?
Yeah, I mean,
Russia?
of course. So nation adversaries we look at from cyber: China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. And some of those countries, including, in particular Russia, are sponsoring or given safe haven to those criminal ransomware groups that are causing devastation across the world. The thing that I would like folks here to remember is that if you do these basic things, like that's the good news. At the end of the day, many of these threat actors, even though nation states do put a lot into it and they're sophisticated, at the end of the day, they're taking advantage of basic vulnerabilities that we're actually, allowing in our infrastructure, whether it comes from the people who create software or as individuals, we're not doing the right things. If you do those 4 things that I mentioned, cyber hygiene, it will prevent, Tim, 98% of cyber attacks, right? Getting the basics done. Passwords, updating your software, multi-factor authentication, not clicking on suspicious links will prevent, recent research, 98% of cyber attacks.
So we're choosing to be vulnerable.
In many ways,
many cases.
We are, but I don't like, you mentioned like ransomware attacks. I don't think we should be blaming victims.
Yeah.
I'm very much against that, right? Like I know you are too. You do not, because you protect them, right, at the end of the day, and you go to prosecute those actors. But in many ways, people do feel like if I got hit by a cyber criminal, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell anyone. But actually, the important thing is you should tell people so that you can protect others. It's like a neighborhood watch.
Yep.
You'd want to know if your neighbor got robbed so that you can protect your house. We're all in this together.
Yeah, and I know people feel free to to tell me because they text me. Everybody's got my cell phone in the state, and we hear about these threats, and you got to keep doing that, particularly ransomware, stuff like that. Look, we are never going to have at the AG's office 100 people working on ransomware, but we know who to connect you with.
Yep.
We can't always triage the issue ourselves, but we know who to call.
And
it's a great
and part of it is us.
That's
we
right.
are here to help.
That's right. We want to work. We want to know about it. We want to loop in some of our partners, CISA, Forge, and others, Lee Watson, which will be up here in a little bit. We need to know, and so please tell us.
Yeah.
501, this is our main number, 501-682-2007. We'll make sure everybody gets that stuff. But that, oh yeah, that's so much easier on my eyes. But that is critically important. So we'll watch the video.
Yeah.
And then got some follow-up on that.
All right.
Let's see this video.
Happy birthday, Max.
Yes! I'm Joe on the phone, here to show you 4 easy ways to stay safe online. Come on. We can secure our world. When you choose your passwords, make them strong. Use a password manager to help you along. But don't just use a password alone. Get a call, get a text, or a code on your phone. And the thing really works. We can secure our world. When it's time to update an app, don't you hesitate. Do it ASAP. That's like that. Watch out for offers too good to be true. What? It's probably someone trying to take advantage of you.
Hey, that's fishy.
Let's report it. Install updates. Make better passwords. Think before you click. Use multiple factors. That's how we can secure our world. Learn more at CISA.gov/secure our world.
Yay!
Come on.
Awesome.
That's all going to stay in your head.
Hey, we'll do some social media on that. Your singing was even better.
Oh, yeah,
That
we should
wasn't you on
amplify
there,
that.
was it? No.
Can I make a comment? Because you
Sure.
just said, I was just talking to Congressman Hill here before, and he was talking about
Congressman French Hill, who's
he was talking
here
about
somewhere.
collective defense, and that's incredibly important, right? Because, first of all, no state or local entity, no small business should be expected to protect themselves from the Chinese PLA or the Russian intelligence services. That's why the Congress created us in 2018 so that we can be on the ground with you all as your partner. But we all play a collective role, whether it's nonprofits like the Forge Institute, whether it's big technology companies, critical infrastructure, state and local officials, the federal government. This has to be a collective defense because all of us have different visibility into the threat environment, and we got to put that together. We got to connect those dots to keep our country safe because we're connected, we're interdependent, and frankly, we are all vulnerable given a very fragile technology base. So it has to be about collective defense.
Yeah, and let me say this. You know, there are some people that want to do whatever needs to be done in our state without the federal government. Let me tell you what, it's impossible. If you take away federal funds, federal resources, federal cooperation, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be our United States military, we're toast. So we got to get over that. This is so critically important. And we collectively generally have no problem with our green suiters, as we call military, even the Air Force are in green now, defending our country for obvious reasons. But this threat is not in the future. This is here now. And a lot of the people fighting it are not wearing green suits. If they're wearing suits, they're wearing boots. And we've got to know that you can't say, well, I'm good with those folks protecting us. I mean, this is truly collective.
Yeah.
The feds can't do it without the states
100%.
or the local and vice versa.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So look, when I spent most of my career in the U.S. Army, a lot of time downrange in Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Kosovo, Haiti. And then I was in the intelligence community. I worked for 2 presidents, President Bush and President Obama, now obviously in the Biden administration. You know, this is the first time this job, which is the best job I've ever had, where I get to spend a huge amount of my time out in the heartland with state and local officials, with small business, and it is an amazing opportunity to not only understand America better, where things actually happen, but to be able to help. Like we grew up in the Reagan era, you know, we're with the federal government, we're here to help. We actually really are here to help. The Congress's insight was that they wanted to create a nonpartisan, non-political agency that was specifically focused on defending America from the very serious threats that all of us deal with. So, look, I'm not naive. I understand that people have a healthy skepticism of the federal government. But at the end of the day, people don't and shouldn't be expected to trust institutions. We don't trust institutions, we trust people, right? Which is why I wanted to come here, spend time with you. I wanted to introduce my team that is here on the ground, that lives here to work with you all as partners, not as feds, but as partners who are trying to defend America. Also, we have worked very hard to grow this agency, not as another lumbering federal bureaucracy.
Got enough of those.
But, yeah, exactly. But something that's much more like a public-private collaborative, something that really works hard. I was talking to your AG earlier about the importance of public-private partnerships. We set up something called the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative to recognize that, like, we as a federal government, we can't just reach out and say, hey, give us that information. You know, tell us what's going on. We have to be transparent. We have to be responsive. We have to add value when a business is under duress, when a business needs our help. And that's a fundamentally different paradigm shift. And it's a tough thing to do, but we're making progress, going in the right direction.
Yeah, this is critical. Look, I sue the federal government almost daily. I am very skeptical of the federal government on so many fronts. But the reality is, and I will continue to be skeptical, but the reality is we can't defend this country without our military. We can't. And we shouldn't, you know, we know that. And we are going to have to have partners on this front, this gray zone warfare. I am always skeptical. And I know, you know, when people, and I want you to address this, when people say, we'll scan your computer for you, I'm sure a lot of people watching this are going to be like, oh my gosh, the feds are going to scan our computer. Well, the truth is, if people wanted to scan your computer, they could probably already scan your computer. Yeah. But that's not what you're doing here. I'd like you to address that because that is a healthy skepticism.
100%.
You know, we had we've coming off some events here in Arkansas that rightfully so make us skeptical of the federal government. Talk a little bit about how this is different, because we do need your resources and help. And I want people to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. So when we talk about our cyber hygiene capability, so if you have a small business, if you have networks, there may be pieces of it that are exposed to the internet because you need to be able to get outside your network onto other networks. And so when we say we're scanning or taking a look at that network, that's something that anybody could do, quite frankly. And the key that you all need to remember is, that we all need to remember is, that's the same picture that the ransomware actors are looking at, because they're scanning our networks every single day. That's what the Russians are doing. That's what the Chinese are doing. And they're looking for those open holes, those abilities, those vulnerabilities that they can use to jump inside your network and to hack in, or to lay down ransomware on your network. So what we're doing is we're looking for those holes and vulnerabilities, and we're telling you this is a vulnerability being used by a ransomware actor actively. So we're letting you know that you need to close up those holes.
So you're not looking at where I went on vacation last year.
Not at all. We have the same.
Maybe this year, but not last year.
We're looking at the same picture that anybody can see from the outside. It's not about content. It's about what those exposed vulnerabilities are that you need to patch. Another great program that we have, Tim, is called our pre-ransomware notification initiative. And we get calls from threat intel folks. We get calls from folks who are scanning the global infrastructure, who tell us it looks like a ransomware actor is about to put malware down on this network. And we give a call out to those partners, whether it's a water facility or a school or a hospital, and we say, you're about to get popped by a ransomware actor. And so if you get a call from one of my CISA teammates, please answer the phone, because they truly want to prevent you from having your worst day.
Now, that's very helpful. So the takeaway, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a IT guy, your computers are already being scanned by bad actors.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
The AG's office and every other government office is being attacked every day, scanned every day. It's happening already. So it's not like you were living peacefully with your one computer or your small business and then CISA wants to scan it. No, attacks are ongoing. So what you're saying is you're not going to look at where I went on vacation or whatever. You are going to scan to see where our cyber vulnerabilities are.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It's passive scanning. There's nothing active about it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about your
Yeah.
vacation, but I don't really care.
No.
Yeah.
What vacation? This is my vacation.
Exactly.
This is what I do.
Not at all. This is, and quite frankly, this is all voluntary. These are things that entities that want to be protected sign up for. It's nothing like we just do without getting your explicit approval for it. And if you have questions about it, that's why we have folks on the ground. Sit down with them, understand the services that we provide, see the ones that are best tailored for your needs so that you can use these no-cost services to drive down risk. And so at least ask those questions. You may make the decision, oh, I don't want to do this, but at least ask those questions, understand what we provide, understand how it works, and understand how we can help you reduce that risk.
Gotcha. That's extremely helpful. Now, I want to tell you, I know we've covered a lot here. There will be CISA, you're heading to another state, like immediately after this, but you will have CISA people. You've got them living here,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You will have CISA people here the whole conference, and I'm telling myself, we're going to put some of your info up. It's CISA.gov. Can't miss that, CISA.gov. But we'll put numbers up, whatever we got to do there. I want to talk quickly about election security. So when I first learned that Jen was in charge of CISA, I found out that you already had people here in the state working with the Secretary of State, John Thurston, on election security, advising, because that is a state function, a county, local function, constitutionally, statutorily, but you are a resource. If you could tell us what your role is with regard to, and we've had a great track record, I must say, with elections in this state. Doesn't mean that we don't have people trying to do stuff that's wrong. We arrested somebody the other day for voter registration fraud, and so we deal with that. But we do have a good track record, excellent track record here in the state with our voting. But tell us who's trying to, we know that Russia, China, state actors are trying to stir people up on social media, put false information out, because disruption is our enemy's friend, right?
Yeah,
so,
100%.
But tell us what your role is vis-a-vis our Secretary of State and our elections.
Yeah. So as you pointed out, by the Constitution, states run elections. So state and local election officials are the folks who are on the front lines of defending our democracy. folks who work for Secretary Thurston and his whole team, and then the election officials that are around this state in 75 different counties. So they are on the front lines. What our role is at CISA, we are the federal government lead for providing support to those state and local officials to help them reduce risk, full range of risk.
What is support?
Cyber
money?
risk. We provide grants.
Grants?
Yes, grants in terms of 3% of Homeland Security monies go to election officials. We provide grants for the cyber program to state and local. We provide no-cost cybersecurity assessments, physical security assessments. We provide training. We provide exercises.
Is that Keith Ingram
So
that's here?
Keith Ingram is our election security advisor, and then all of our folks on the ground like Gail and Chad and Mark and Glenn have been working to help election officials do physical security assessments, cybersecurity assessments. We just did a series of exercises to run through scenarios. So we are here to provide the resources, the capabilities that election officials can use to reduce that risk. Now, when we were named as the federal lead in 2017 in the aftermath of Russian attempts to influence and interfere in our elections, and we know that foreign adversaries remain intent. They remain a persistent threat to influencing and interfering in our elections to do two things: to undermine American confidence in our democratic institutions and to stoke partisan discord. We know they are very intent on doing that, and we as Americans have to come together. We can't let them. You know, it is my greatest privilege for somebody who's been raising my hand to support and defend the Constitution since just after my 18th birthday, to work with state and local election officials across the nation, because I know how tirelessly they work to ensure that every one of their citizens' votes are counted as cast. It's why I have great confidence in the security and the integrity of our election infrastructure, and frankly, why the American people should as well. You know, we grew up, as I said, in the Reagan era. My parents worked for Ronald Reagan. My dad, when I was 11, took me with him to the inauguration of Ronald Wilson Reagan, and I remember he said something that still resonates with me. He said, in the eyes of many across the world, this every 4-year ceremony that we accept as normal is nothing short of a miracle. And I have great confidence that all of us across this nation will ensure that that miracle continues this year and continues in the future. But it will take all of us to defend democracy from the very real foreign adversaries who want to weaken this great nation, want to tear us apart, want to shred our democratic institutions. And that's why us being together, the federal government, state and local, working with academia, nonprofit, and critical infrastructure, private sector, why that collective defense is so incredibly important, whether it comes to transportation, communication, water, energy, or the infrastructure that Americans use to cast their ballots, and ensure that those ballots are counted as cast.
Yeah. I'll just say this. This goes without saying. The Chinese and the Russians love nothing more than to see us focused on each other, fighting each other. And I don't mean debate. That's what this country is about. I mean, I can debate and passionately with the best of them. I'm happy to do it. I do it every day. I'm not afraid of exchanging ideas with vigor. But when we have illegal criminal violence against each other, our adversaries celebrate. And so what they want is more of that. The more they can see of that, the more they think we're winning. And I don't think there's any question about that, and the military folks here know that. And so I think a good takeaway is CISA is a resource. If you don't lose it, that's up. If you don't use it, that's up to you. They're there. They're a resource. And number one. Number two, we're not preparing for attacks to come only. The threat's here. The threat is already here. the hybrid warfare, the gray zone warfare, the gray zone conflict, and it, you know, long before LSCO, large-scale combat operation, it's already here. It's already here. And it's not just nation-state actors. There's a lot of other criminals who want to steal your money and your information, sell it on the dark web, whatever. So we all have an interest, yes, in cybersecurity. Yes, healthy interest in skepticism of government, absolutely be skeptical. But don't let that get in the way of protecting yourself and your networks, because this threat is here and we don't want anybody to be taken advantage of. And if you ever need help, we're also a resource at the AG's office. I want y'all to help me show our appreciation. We're very fortunate that Jen spent time here. Jen, thank you for being here. Now, when we started, the Rubik's Cube was not done, and I was so boring, she did it while I was speaking. I don't know if that was rigged or what, but great, great job. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks so much, Tim. Thanks to all of you.